All right, first off, I want to thank AAAS and Lemelson Foundation for offering the opportunity. This is like hiding me. Offering the opportunity, you can leave it there, to have a forum and a voice, especially for what I'm going to talk about, which is I consider the most vulnerable population, which is children. And in the world right now, there are over 150 million children with a disability, and these are reported. And so reported is, we think the number is higher. And in the US alone, it is over a $1.6 billion industry. And really it's to provide resources to engage children in meeting their developmental milestones. But it's not enough. And so what I'm interested in is how do we take this child-clinician interaction that's done in the clinic typically and bring it into the home environment. Ultimately bring it to an environment where it's lower cost, is achievable, is accessible to all kids irrespective of their economic status. And that's the ultimate holy grail goal. So we still have a little room to go in terms of the low cost, but we have been able to get in terms of the interaction to use the robotic system in the home environment for all kids with disabilities. And the way that we do it is we go to where the kids are. One is we've gamified therapy. So every child, if you talk to them, whether they're a typical child or a child with disability, loves games. It's in their DNA from very early on. They're playing. It allows them to be creative and explore and figure out things like cause and effect. And so we've gamified therapy and brought it into the home. Now for kids who have different types of disabilities, access to games, though, might be difficult. If I have a motor disability and I'm unable to, say, pick block, how do I then play a game? And so we've had to create technologies to engage children if they have a sensory processing disorder, if they have a motor disability, if they have a cognitive disability, how do you allow them to play games? And then our robot functions as the coach. So this is the one that provides guidance because, of course, it's a game, but we wanted to have therapy. And so the robot guides the game so we actually achieve whatever developmental milestones we have, whether it's turn taking for a child with autism, or it's motor control, fine motor manipulation for a child with cerebral palsy. And so all of these together, which is a complicated system, we design in order to engage kids. And so because every child is different, typical or a child with disability, providing a resource that engages them at all levels, we have to be very creative. And so our games are engaging, they have different functions. They basically, wherever you are, if you like turtles or you like ladybugs or you like virtual reality connect kind of games, we bring that into the home environment. And so they can play. Of course, I'm going to talk about the robot coach, but they can play based on their ability. So if they have fine motor control, that's good. If they have difficulties with movement, we have the virtual reality games. And so even if they can move a finger, we can actually translate that and they can play this game. And so that's where the invention is how do you provide access to these games for all kids, irrespective of their abilities or disabilities. And then we combine that with a robotic platform. And so the robot is there to coach. The robot is there to provide guidance. And so the robot monitors the child. The robot looks and sees, what is the child doing? Are they achieving their whatever milestone the human clinician has established? And the robot provides feedback. How do you provide feedback? Well, one of the things that human clinicians do all the time is they engage children at their level, typically on a social or emotional level. And so our robots, they're actually social. They have a personality. They have empathy. They have happiness and surprise. And so if a child is frustrated, we recognize that. There's a lot in the eyes. We recognize frustration in a child, which means that they're either not getting the gameplay or they're frustrated because of the abilities of their body. Robot needs to recognize that and actually commiserates with them. Oh, you know what? This was hard for me too. Let's try something else. And so now what you have is you now have this robot, which might seem mechanical, is actually becoming a playmate, is becoming an advisor, is becoming someone trusted that the child then says, okay, maybe this is hard, but my robot friend says that I can do it. I'm just going to try a little bit harder in terms of this lesson plan. I'm going to try moving a little bit faster because my robot friend says it and I trust my robot. And so we've established all of this kind of technology and inventions to understand kids' mental and emotional state and have the robot modify and try to identify that, and then the robot itself has that and depicts whatever it is that they're doing. And so if you look at it all together, Robots and children, they can play together in terms of this application of therapy. As far as the child is concerned, they're playing a game, they're having fun, they're interacting with their robot friend and their robot playmate, but under the hood, they're doing therapy so that they can achieve the developmental milestones. And this is done in the home environment. This is done in an environment where the parents might not feel comfortable with technology, or the parents might not necessarily have the resources. And so we provide those for a child who has a disability. In terms of impact outside the lab, our games are being used across the world and across in terms of other countries where clinicians and parents are downloading our therapy apps and interacting. They don't have the robot yet, but they're interacting with these gamified therapy apps in terms of, again, turn taking and cause and effect and understanding this gamified therapy that we provide. In terms of adoptions, in a bunch of different clinics where the clinicians are using the technology to validate it and trying to figure out what kind of things do we have to do so that I, as a human clinician, know that the robot is doing what it's supposed to do? Because a clinician has to also trust the robot. Kids, no problem, trust the robot. The clinician also has to trust the robot. And so how do we move forward in terms of that trust so the clinician is much more comfortable saying, oh yeah, you can take this robot home and I will trust the robot that it will do what I need you to do for me as well as for the child, and putting it all together in order to make a system that is viable and accessible to all children with disabilities worldwide. And that is my invention. Thank you.